Today I'm joined by Jez Hyland, who is the new Assistant Provincial Grandmaster for Lincolnshire from 2023 onwards. Thank you for joining me today, Jez. How did you feel when you got the phone call or letter asking you to be the Assistant Provincial? Grandmaster?
Shocked. Surprised and absolutely delighted.
You're responsible for the festival, which is the big fundraising thing. That is a massive job on its own. How do you square the fact that you're both running the festival and now responsible, a pretty big job of running the Almoner, the charity, and I'm sure there's some other jobs that you're responsible for as well. How are you going to balance all that out?
I think they intertwine, Chris. It's hand in glove. The festival is part of my responsibility, or will be, after May 10th. Obviously, as chair of the festival, I've been able to see how the festival works from the start. We're halfway through now. Getting to the end will be a challenge. The goal we set ourselves is a huge challenge, but the role of the APGM, the festival, is included in that role. So my responsibilities dovetail very well with the charity armors and the festival.
So therefore, when you've got your APGM hat on, you're going to give yourself a rollicking when the festival is not doing so well, or a praise if you're doing well.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Exactly that.
What are your responsibilities? Because in Lincolnshire there are 2 assistant provincial grandmasters, and for those who are watching who don't know how it works, you've got the provincial grandmaster at the top, then a deputy provincial grandmaster, and then 2 assistants. And I know in different provinces there are more or less of those depending on the numbers. And I didn't know this. There's actually something in the statute which tells you how many of these big jobs you have. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
It's all proportionate. No, and I didn't know that.
Yeah,
no.
It's all in the
I presume it's
book.
proportionate.
Yeah, it is. It is proportionate.
Yeah, I presume it is. Yeah.
So, what are the 3 elements of your role as an assistant provincial grandmaster?
It is charity, Almoner, and festival. So I look at that and I say it's like looking after the raising of the funds. So it's the raising of the funds and then what help we can give with those funds raised. But it's not just money, Chris, is it? It's time. It's the effort that Freemasons give outside of putting their hands in the pocket for the good of the community, as well as.
Do you think the actual time is as valuable as the money?
I think it is, yes. And I think the community would see it that way.
What do you, and we are going to do a separate video on the festival where we really do drill down, but how do you know, if you're saying the festival is how you raise it and the charitable element is how you spend it, just briefly, how are we doing with the raising of it? And I know, as I said, we're going to do a deeper video on that.
Yeah, the MCF would say on a linear graph, we are, with 2.5 years to go, we're absolutely bang on where they would expect us to be to hit our 2.25 million. A couple of things we'll cover.
It's not a target though, is it?
It's not, no, it's a goal.
An expectation.
It should not be. It shouldn't be.
An aspiration. We don't have targets.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a target because it was the calculation of how it was done was not on a true business sense. So the figure's the figure. If we put 100% effort in and raise £2 million, that £2 million will do a lot of good. If we raise 2.5 million, we'll be £500,000 extra good. But we just do what we can. What I want to do over the term of the festival, as well as my term as being hopefully the APGM after May, is for the province to understand completely the festival cycle, what happens in and out festival, because that to me is the thing that I didn't understand before I got offered the chairman's job of the festival, and And I am sure when I go round and speak to people and ask what is the cycle, it's not fully understood.
Maybe we could go into that in a greater detail when we actually deep dive on the
Happy
festival.
to, Chris. Yeah,
That'll be on
yeah,
our YouTube
yeah.
channel, so please do check that out. Moving on to the charity element, which is the spending of the money. Now, it's my understanding that the MCF spends around £300,000 a year, whether we're in festival or not, on Lincolnshire projects, of which 2/3 of it actually goes back to Freemasons.
Yeah, and that is, again, it's one of the misconceptions that we raise funds through the festival. It all stays in London. You know, the impact reports over the last 5 years, since the MCF was formed, 5 years combined, Lincolnshire has received just over £1.7 million over a 5-year period. If you add up all the figures of the 5 years impact report.
So in 10 years, if it carries on that way,
the cycle's 11, Chris, remember that.
cycle's 11,
Yeah.
we're going to be putting in nearly 4 million, sorry.
3.75 million is the answer to the
There you
question
go.
you're just about to ask. Yeah.
But we're only putting in 2.5, which actually means that we're on a winner. We're getting more out than we're putting in.
As a province, we are a net receiver of funds from the MCF. Currently. It would be nice to be the other way occasionally, because that means we're helping other provinces. This comes back to this festival cycle and understanding the cycle and understanding what happens in and out and what comes back.
So I found out recently, and I know you did as well, is that it's called a festival because a bunch of Freemasons decades ago, it might even been over 100 years ago, raised some money and decided to have a bit of a party, a festival.
Yeah.
And it's a funny name, isn't it?
It's a strange name to me. Whether or not they'll rebrand it at some stage or retitle it, the MCF, I'm not sure. It's not a brilliant title, I don't think. It's not meaningful.
So basically, for any Freemason watching this, for 5 years we go hell for leather, really going for it with special events and big on direct debit, standing orders, to bring the cash in.
Yeah.
And then for the next 6 years, so that's being in festival, isn't it? Again, some people might not know this. I know those older buggers know, but the younger ones might not. Younger to Freemasonry, by the way. You've got to remember that. And then for the 6 years afterwards, we're kind of taking it easy. Although we're still putting our 2 or 3 quids in.
But that goes to the province, goes to the LMCA, or to your charity account at your lodge. And when that builds up, they pass a cheque on to the Lincolnshire Masonic Charitable Association.
So that money that you're raising when you're out of festival, because after 25, 26 we'll be out of festival, we'll still be passing the plate round, but that will be going more to Lincolnshire charities. But again, coming back, spending 300 grand roughly a year, how much of that goes on Lincolnshire charities and how much actually goes on Lincolnshire Freemasons?
The split between funds going to Freemasons and their families and the wider community, i.e. other charitable grants, is probably about 65% Freemasons and families and the balance to the wider community. But what you've then got to consider, if you wanted to do the maths properly, Chris, was to look at what happens at provincial level through the whole of the cycle as well, of what we give to local charities and occasionally what we need to give to our own Freemasons and their families as well, which we do through a petitions committee in Lincolnshire. But the majority is given to the wider community. So the MCF
does end up being more for local
I think the stats overall would be that the funds raised by Freemasons generally, 50% goes to Freemasons and their families and 50% goes to the wider community.
Now, some people watching this will say, well, okay, where does that 50% go to for Freemasons?
People who fall on hard times, Chris.
But you have to be rich and to be a Freemason. You have to be well in the community. don't you? That's the perception, isn't it?
People become ill. People fall on hard times financially. Just look at what we're going through now, economically. People will, in any organisation, and Freemasons no different, people fall on hard times and need help. We're just in an absolutely fantastic position that our reserves, from a point of view of the province of Lincolnshire, and then nationally through the Masonic Charitable Foundation, have got the money to help families, Freemasons, and the wider community at the same time.
I've heard some fantastic stories of Freemasons being helped out by the MCF. And I think it's important for anyone watching this who is a Freemason that if you are doing your standing order for your 20 or 30 quid a month or whatever you put in, or your £10 in the envelope at the festive board, is that half of that is going back to a brother that's probably in your room, because I've been told there's, no one wants to shout about it, do they? But I'm aware that in just about every single lodge there's someone who's receiving something from the MCF. We're not going to shout about it though, are they?
No, they're not. They're not going to shout about it. However, we know it happens because of the impact report and the statistics we get back. I mentioned earlier the impact report from the MCF over their 5-year period. Now they've been going 5 years. We can get some really probably true statistics of how the Masonic Charitable Foundation help Freemasons and their families in Lincolnshire. And over that 5-year period, there's been 375 grants to made to Freemasons and their families. You divide that by 5, it becomes 75. There's 75 lodges in the province. You've already said it's one per lodge per year that's helped.
Well, charity does begin at home, and at the end of the day, when we become Freemasons, we commit to looking after ourselves and our community, but we also commit to looking after our brothers. Let's move on. Oh, before we do move on, I'm assuming if someone does need some help, they don't have to go to their worshipful master. They just go to the MCF website?
Direct to the MCF via an Almoner if they want to, because the Almoner will have more knowledge of how to make the contact.
And that will be confidential?
Absolutely confidential. The key is confidentiality, Chris. I'm sure everyone would understand that. Yeah.
So again, if you're a Mason and you I've got issues, then do go to your Almoner or go to the Masonic Charitable Foundation website. Just go to Google MCF, you'll find it, and there is a section on there that you can apply, and it can all be confidential.
Yeah.
Finally, let's talk about almoners. Some people won't actually know what an almoner does. They just stand up and say, Mrs. Miggins. They talk about all the widows, and they talk about the people who the brothers who are not very well. What is the actual job of an almoner, and what are you going to do to support them?
Again, it's looking after those that are either ill, and keeping in touch, but also those that fall on hard time, giving them guidance and support of how and what help is out there. The knowledge of where the help is until it actually happens to you. And then obviously your brain is frazzled because of the circumstances you're under. So to have somebody there in an organisation you're a member of to be able to guide you the path to where the help is. And that might not just be monetary, Chris. We've heard only recently a couple of, I think, fantastic examples of people in the province receiving counselling, mental health issues. There's that other help and assistance that's available, not just pounds, shillings and pence.
And that's the thing about this organisation is that the commitments we make in the ceremonies actually mean something, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. The obligations we make, Chris. Yeah.
Well, I wish you well on your journey and your next step in Freemasonry. Being Assistant Provincial Grandmaster, I know that you will do a fantastic job. I know I've been with you on the festival committee for the last 5 years, and you've done a cracking job there. So, no doubt you'll be absolutely amazing at this. I think your wife is going to love the fact that she's going to have even more of the remote control. And
it'll be nearly permanent, won't it?
It will.
Yeah.
And I wish you well. So thank you very much, and I wish you good luck in your future.
Thank you, Chris. And I would just like to pass thanks to Worshipful Brother Bruce Goodman and Worshipful Brother Peter Brooks for the job they've done for the province as APGMs. And if I can stand up to what they've done for the province over my term in office, I'll be absolutely delighted.
Thank you.